This is the first ever White House Summit on Working Families. I know you said in your State of the Union, when women succeed, America succeeds. What's the single most important thing you think you can do to help working women?
Well, the question is not just what I can do, but I think what we as a society need to do.
Interviewees:
Jason Poole,
Courtney Poole,
John Snyder.
One federal law on gender discrimination is Title VII of Civil Rights Act in 1964. It is illegal for an employer to discriminate against someone based on sex, race, color, religion, or national origin. It is illegal for employees of 15 or more people to use any of the above categories to justify paying someone less, firing, not hiring, or discriminating against someone in terms of working conditions or payment privileges. It is illegal for an employer to retaliate against someone for reporting or opposing gender discrimination or participating in an investigation of illegal action related to discrimination. Here are some examples of gender discrimination: not being hired or given lower pay, being denied a promotion, pay raise, or training opportunity that is given to people of another sex who are equally or less qualified as you.
Women hourly workers earned about $1,100 less per year than their male counterparts. And the gender pay gap among management was about $14,500 per year.
Being held to different standards or being evaluated more harshly, being insulted, called derogatory names or slurs because of your sex, or hearing hostile remarks.
As women march for equality today, one pair of freelance writers set out to expose sexism in the workplace. One man made a small change and he found out just how much sexism his female colleague experiences every day.
I said we should do an experiment and see if it's really different. So we did. And he was blown away by the results.
Nicole Halberg and Martin Schneider were working for a resume writing company in 2014 when they decided to switch their names on outgoing emails to clients for 2 weeks. I was in hell, recounted Schneider on Twitter this week, sharing the story for International Women's Day. Everything I asked or suggested was questioned. Clients I could do in my sleep were condescending. One asked if I was single. Meanwhile, Nicole had the most productive week of her career. I realized the reason she took longer is because she had to convince clients to respect her.
Being subject to unwelcome sexual advantages, requests for sexual favors, or other verbal or physical harassment of a sexual nature.
He'd invite himself out to lunch with me, or he'd wait for me after work and hang around just so he could walk to the tube station with me. There wasn't really anything specific at first. He just wouldn't leave me alone. And we worked together, so, I tried to be nice to him, but, keep it professional, but I really didn't do anything to encourage him.
Family and Leave Medical Act states that it is unlawful to harass a woman because of pregnancy, childbirth, or any other medical condition related. Harassment is illegal when it becomes so frequent or severe that it creates a hostile or offensive work environment, or when it results in an adverse employment decision, such as a victim of being fired or demoted.
There was a teacher here. This was a long time ago. And she was pregnant, but she was not married. And they tried to get rid of her because she was pregnant and unwed.
I know you want to employ more women, but can we be practical for a moment? Now, I've got 2 of my best people off on maternity leave right now. 2. Now, the last thing I need is another woman who might go and get pregnant.
About a third of the Latinos in America say they've been personally discriminated against when it comes to applying for jobs, being paid equally, considered for promotions, trying to buy or rent a house, interacting with police, going to the doctor or healthcare clinic, applying for jobs or attending a college, or trying to vote or participate in politics. Slightly more than 37% say they've been personally experienced racial or ethnic slurs because of their race or ethnicity.
Latino out of this country, then who is going to be cleaning your toilet, Donald Trump?
Oh. Racial discrimination in the workplace is a type of discrimination based on the race of a particular employee. Since 2011, the Equal Opportunity Commission has received over 45,000 complaints that are directly related to racial discrimination. Only 1.2% of discrimination complaints result in the financial reward of the claimant. The highest reward was paid out as £4.4 million in the UK. 35.3% of total complaints received for any type of employment discrimination by the EEOC average year are based on racial discrimination. In the United States, 112 million was collected from the employers for racial discrimination violations, not including money that was received from lawsuits.
Sent out job applications, bogus job applications, using a sort of typically white name such as Emily Smith, and the exact same application or similar qualifications with a name such as Lakeisha Washington, or and they got a far greater response to the Emily Smith types of names.
So yeah, Harvard sent out 5,000 applications. 2,500 had traditionally white names, 2,500 had traditionally African American names. And of these 5,000 applications that they submitted to about 1,000 jobs, both the white and African American pool had equal resumes. So on paper, these should have gotten the same amount of feedback. And they did again find that 1 in every 10 resumes from a white applicant was accepted. 1 in every 15 resumes from an African American applicant was accepted. So that's a 50% disparity.
It was against a coworker of mine.
Can you tell me what happened?
Well, she was pretty much called a monkey.
Middle-aged white male. So I just don't. It's not. I don't live with that day to day like some people do. So whenever I see that happening, it just kind of opens my eyes to, there's all these experiences that other groups of people are having that I just don't have experience with, and it tries to make me empathize with that more.
The society I want to see is I want to be able to walk out the house just as free feeling as that white guy who said he doesn't worry about a thing when he walks out the door.
Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 also prohibits Native American employment discrimination based on assumptions and stereotypes about traits, performance, or the other abilities of people or certain racial backgrounds, neutral job policies, and intentional discrimination that is not job-related, disproportional, excluding Native Americans. Thus, employers cannot decline hiring or promoting Native Americans, nor can they harass, discipline, or practice wrongful termination on the bias of Native Americans.
Thank you. Stephanie?
Policy change is interesting because policy is a reflection of the culture. Just in the last year, we've seen how the culture in talking about discrimination has changed tremendously as people have felt more empowered to discuss their own hatred and dislike for other groups. So when I think about policy change, part of it is how do we infuse it into every part of the culture? So work to change ideas. Part of it, there's a Corn Tassel has a great everyday acts of resurgence. If everyone who heard this talk today took one step in saying, I'm not, in every situation, I'm not going to let Native people be invisible. And, we start to think about what does that mean in psychology for clinicians? What do we need to do? It really is about changing the conversation and changing the narrative, and that requires a larger cultural shift in America. And so, policies are a reflection of ideas. And so this conversation is a good start. We need to have many more of these conversations.
15 to 43% of gay and transgender workers have experienced some form of discrimination on the job. 8% to 17% of gay and transgender workers report being passed over for a job or fired because of their sexual orientation or gender identity. 10% to 28% received a negative performance evaluation or were passed over for their promotion because they were gay or transgender. 7% to 41% of gay and transgender workers were verbally or physically abused or had their workplace vandalized.
High-stakes day at the Supreme Court, which is back in session and taking up 3 potentially landmark cases involving gay and transgender rights and discrimination in the workplace. Senior national correspondent Terry Miranda is at the Supreme Court with more this morning. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, Michael. This is a huge day here. The court will be taking up 3 cases and focusing on a crucial question for the country to get a horn there. Does the great Civil Rights Act of 1964, which among many other things prohibits discrimination, quote, because of sex, protect gay and transgendered Americans? There's a skydiving instructor from New York, a state employee from Georgia. They say they were fired because they were gay. And a funeral director from Michigan says she was fired after she transitioned. They say this law should protect them. And their employers say Congress did not intend this law to mean that.
I act really gay, so They just seem to not like it, I guess.
Did it have a personal effect on you?
It did. It took me back a little bit, made me think about previous experiences that I had on my own. But in today's society, it's still not okay to call someone of color a monkey.
Any other comments?
I would just would like to say that even when trying to be politically correct, sometimes things come out that should not be said. But I think it shows our true color sometimes, you know. Whether you're trying to be provocative or not, we have to be careful what we say to one another, because a lot of things can be perceived as discrimination, you know, and one person's perception can be another person's reality.
Discrimination isn't just found in the workplace, but everywhere else in life as well. There's more than just one type of discrimination, and we apologize for not being able to get to everyone today. But think about this. What if you were in the same predicament that some of the people showed in the video today? How would you act? Would you tell your boss? Tell someone higher up? What if it didn't work? What would you do then? Did you already start? Yes. Bro, start it up! Oh. Set. Go. As we all know, discrimination is not only in the workplace, but everywhere else. Think about this. I skipped a whole lot. It's a video.
It's a video.